You're listening to the Beans and Dice podcast, a podcast about how we game.
Hey, folks. Today, I'll be your bean. I'm Carlos.
And
Who's
I'm
my
Wayne.
dice?
I'll be the dice. I'll be Wayne.
And it is just Wayne and I tonight. Thank you all for joining in. Rob is up north in, I believe, Gainesville. He's got two kids headed up to college, one to Tallahassee, one to Gainesville. So I think he's up in Gainesville with the daughter, if I'm right.
I mean, we could be honest, and you're saying he went up north, but really he went south.
Well, there's that weird line in Florida where the more north you go from where we are in Tampa, the more southern it gets.
Yes. And then, if you go south of here, you get south again for a little bit, and then you go back north again when you get to Miami.
It's a paradox. It's like a Bermuda Triangle thing.
Yes.
He is celebrating dropping his daughter off, and then more importantly, he'll be celebrating tomorrow his birthday. Happy birthday, Rob. Wishing you a happy birthday if you're watching now. I know you're probably with the family at the hotel having a good time, but we're wishing you a happy birthday.
He'll watch it later. Yeah. Happy one more time around the sun.
Hey, Shawty, it's your birthday. All right, folks, we're here to talk about board games. Wayne and I are going to take over for today. We're going to open up the phone lines right off the bat because we don't have any main topics to get into. My hope is that we get this into a call-in show. 813-618-7099 is the number. I have turned off the
Do not
disturb. So the phone line is open, 813-618-7099 for you to call in and talk about board games. Other than that, we will just
stretch the content out.
We'll talk about some of the games that we've played and or purchased,
Sure.
And or reviewed or looked at, perused. We'll talk about what's going on with board games with us. That's our motto. It's how we game.
How we game.
All right, so I was watching Dice Tower, and they were sponsored for an episode by a company called GripMat.
GripMat, yeah.
Have you seen that, GripMat?
Yeah, those look good, man.
I was like, you know what? I like to throw money towards sponsors of content that I enjoy, so I went and checked out their website, the GripMat website. GripMat is a like neoprene board game accessories, board replacements and other accessories made out of neoprene printed on their neoprene. And what's cool about them is they have this texture that they can add on to give it a grippy surface, almost like a rubber coating, so that things don't slide.
That is the one sort of issue with some playmats is like it's nice and it makes picking up cards easy, but it is a little more like slidey. Like things can,
it's slick, which isn't terrible because there's some games that I want it to be slick. I want you want to toss that card across the table and let it slide. Here's an example of the product. Here's the sample that they sent me. So this is my Game Topper neoprene mat, and here's a card that came with the instructions for care of the mat that I purchased. And here's their example of a grippy mat, and as you can see, the card does not slide.
Nice.
Unlike on a regular neoprene mat where the card will slide. So if there's games where you want to have more control of your components, when you lay them down, they stay where you put them. GripMat seems to be a cool way to do that.
I seem to recall seeing the one that I was like, ooh, that's kind of tempting is the Brass Birmingham mat that I saw that they have. I was like, oh, that's so tempting, because that's like one of my favorite games, and I kind of like that the idea of the mat. But what's interesting is, do they have like license? Are they licensed to do the board games for all these board games?
I don't know what you mean.
Okay, I don't know. Like that's well, I would assume if the Dice Tower is sponsored by them, I wouldn't think that the Dice Tower would.
I don't know because here's what I do know.
Or do you have to license it? Like, is it something is the board copyrighted? Like, can I just recreate that?
Well, I know that artwork can be copyrighted, right?
Right.
Now the artwork is how do I say reminiscent of the original work. So let me get a camera here. So as an example, here's some of the products that they have, and you can see this. I don't know if you can see, but this board on the right. Let me make myself bigger. this board that is Lords of Waterdeep, Wayne, in an octagonal shape.
Right. Oh yeah. See, I'm gonna go to their website and pull it out. Maybe pull up the website.
So I cannot imagine that Wizards of the Coast gave them permission to print a Lords of Waterdeep board. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. So I wonder.
I can't picture that.
Yeah, I wonder if like the mats that are very much like copies are licensed, and the ones that are not are like totally different. I don't know. That'd be interesting. I mean, yeah.
Maybe if you change enough, it's not. You're not breaking any copyrights.
Yeah. Let's see what we got there. So they clearly have a Terraforming Mars one.
Oh yeah, there's brass. There's Lords of Waterdeep.
Let's see what we got. Let's find the brass one. They got looks like.
Shout outs to from Chester Wilson to Rob. Happy birthday. So today is my pop's birthday. So it looks like we got more August birthdays. Thank you, Chester, for the well wishes to Rob.
So here's what it is. When you go to their website, it's really just an Etsy store. So I think that's probably how they're getting kind of away with it.
Away with it?
Away with it.
We're just doing it, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, well, like think about it. Like how many people on Etsy do things for board games that are not really licensed, right?
Right, and as long as it's not a direct copy, I would imagine that it's not copyrighted, right? You're not stealing. He's not stealing their art. He's redoing these boards.
Right.
What I really love about the Lords of Waterdeep board,
pretty straightforward brass board, but
that Lords of Waterdeep board, what I love what he did is he reorganized it. Right?
Yeah.
So Lords of Waterdeep is a big board.
It's big and long.
Yes.
Right? Which is always kind of annoying on a table.
And it's hard because when you're playing with other, more than 4 players, some people have more access to the board than others. This here allows for an octagonal board, so it's 8 sides, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not a hexagon; it's an octagon. It has 8 sides, so it's more central. It can be more central in the board and can play across the table easier. They added the corruption tracks already built into it, so that one's on my wish list. But what really got me to pull the trigger and buy, they had a sale going on. Check this out, Wayne.
Okay.
I did not go in for the Ready Set Bet Deluxe version, but I did find
a mat for it.
Beautiful neoprene mat.
Grip mat, nice.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find the Lords of Waterdeep
now,
on their website.
You can choose if you want the grip or not. I chose no grip because with this game, I want to be able to slide the poker chips around as necessary. Slide them back to the players. Cards and such. I don't think I needed or felt like I needed the actual grip on this mat, but it's stitched around the perimeter, and it's nice and it's a thick. Feels like a 3mm mat.
Nice, and it's the edge stitching is big. Like you see a lot of mats you buy that are not stitched on the edge. They're eventually going to fray. I mean, any mat, even really high quality, is going to fray if it's not edge stitched. Yeah.
Well, my worry is with these not edge stitch is the top layer separating
it will eventually fray
from the neoprene rubber.
Yeah, especially like in the weather we have is it like it's either wintertime is really dry, and then in the spring and summer is really wet, so you have this kind of crazy humidity in the houses that kind of changes.
But this I'm happy with. We actually got to play some Ready Set Bet this past weekend. The mat was not here, so I didn't get to use the mat. We used the board, but the mat was on its way. I had already ordered it, but we got to play some Ready Set Bet with family. I think 7 players is what we played at and had a great time. I can recommend grip mats. What's cool is the instructions that it came with. I didn't know this. Here's some of the instructions. You can wipe it down with a damp microfiber towel to wipe away, any of the dust and dirt. And it talks about throwing it in the wash. You can literally throw the whole thing in the wash.
Nice.
And then just drying it on like low heat and low spin dry to dry the mat. That to me is a little stunning. The idea of just throwing the whole mat in the wash.
Yeah, I've never. I should do it for the mats I have because they're supposed you can do it, but I'm just like you said. I'm so afraid that like.
I think I'm going to try it. I'm gonna try it with. You can see the staining on this mat. I don't think, you know what? I'll just give it a try. I'll throw it in the wash and see what happens.
Just use like very mild detergent, right?
There's do's and don'ts on here. So do wipe it down. Do tap the component once placed on the map to lock it in place.
Yep. Okay.
Took me a second to tap it. Yep, it's locked in. Do use the mat for puzzles, tile lane. Don't scratch it with any hard edges, and then don't rub the surface of the mat with anything abrasive. But it's very good quality. I can recommend them. Grip mat came in fast off of Etsy, I believe it was.
Yep, off Etsy, yeah. Yeah, I'm going to show the water deep one here because it's really good.
Yeah,
I like it.
Take over.
Yeah, I mean, boop, boop. Ah. There we go. Figure it out here. There we go. Yeah, I like it. That's cool. I like it's kind of made for that like poker table thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder what's the width of it, but I do like that it's kind of like condensed and it's everything's on one board.
They move the locations around so they're easier to access.
Yep.
I don't know. I like it. I like and the art is still very much encompassing of Lords of Waterdeep.
Yeah, I'm really surprised that they've never like reprinted this game or haven't reprinted this game yet. Waterdeep kind of still sells well.
Watsy.
Yeah, it is what it is, I guess, right? But that's cool. You like the grip mats? I saw the brass one again. I said it once already, but I'm like, ooh, that's tempting. I try to stay away from the mats. I still don't mind my boards, but
I got some more haul items here, but I know you also have some hauls that you made.
Yeah, I got a few.
I saw a post.
Yeah, I got
a really big one.
Yeah, I'll say that. I got two this week. So I did get.
That's the big one.
Yeah, the Pokemon Splendor. Ordered it off of eBay.
I've been looking at that eBay listing.
Korean store.
I think it runs about $60 with shipping.
Yeah, and it was pretty quick. Probably came 2.5 weeks. So, and it came in a nice box. It was shrink wrapped, and then bubble wrapped, and put in a box that was like the perfect size for this, so that it didn't take any damage. And so you got the nice, cool, good weight on these chips too. It's like the old school Splendor where they had heavier chips.
Did they change the chips on Splendor?
Yeah, I think in the newer copies of Splendor, or the cheaper copies of Splendor, they went with like not weighted poker chips, so they're not as heavy. But these go back to the original. That's
the nice part about Splendor is that weight of the chip when you stack them, drop them, play with them.
As what's so it's cool. I mean, I played this at Dice Tyrese 3 or 4 times. My kid really liked it. What I like about this game is what's cool is you also in the box, and this wasn't in the Dice Tower box, but it comes with a special card that's in this little thing, and you get a special random foil card. And so I got so I got a Mewtwo foil card. So every
they can find a way to print this in the U.S., I would like. I looked at that $60 purchase, and I keep telling myself, I don't pull the trigger because I can't read the cards. Like, I don't know all the names. I watched Pokemon before school. Like most folks my age. Middle school, high school age, when it was out. You'd have the morning cartoons. But I don't remember the names of all these creatures, and the cards just don't have the name on them, right?
Yeah, they're in Korean. But I played Pokemon Go on my phone with my kid, like especially during the pandemic. Like we would get out and walk around the neighborhood and play Pokemon Go because it's like an outdoor activity, something you could do. And so I kind of know all the names of them. And what's cool is I like how it comes with a little sheet, a little pad with all the characters in it. And I've already taken out a few of them and laminated them. So you can mark off as you play. You can mark off all the cards you get, and then carry this is like a little between game or multi-game campaign where you can, collect them all. Because you got to catch them all. So the other thing is I don't own a copy of Splendor, and so if I went, I kind of should. It's a good game. It's a solid game. It's a good entry level game, and so that's $30 for $40 right there, and then I might as well basically say, okay, well I'm paying an extra $20 to have the theme. That makes it even more accessible for my kid and my family, and I can bring this to Christmas and play with family and stuff. So I pulled the trigger. I didn't do so. There's Pokemon Splendor, and then there's Evolution or Point Salad EV.
Yeah, I saw that kit.
Yeah.
I know, because what Wayne's talking about is there's a kit you can buy that comes with 3 Korean Pokemon games.
Yeah, you can either get all 3, just 2, or just 1.
Yes. And one of them is like a point salad Pokemon.
It's point salad, but it's point salad, and all the cards are Eevee and the evolutions. So Eevee is a little I don't know, a little dog thing or a little foxy type thing that has like 6 or 7 different evolutions. It can go to Flareon and Vaporeon and whatever, Espeon. But I did some reading on it, and there's no difference. It's 100% just point salad with just the Eevee theme pasted on top. And so, but I like the Pokemon Splendor because there's a difference. It is slightly different than regular Splendor. It doesn't have those lords that you're working towards. It has that evolution mechanic where when you buy that first level card, later on, if you have a certain number of Pokeballs that match the color, you can upgrade him to level 2 for free as part of your turn. So I kind of really like they took Splendor and have twisted it just a little bit, added a new mechanic to make it very thematic to the Pokemon, catching them all and evolving them. Point salad was just point salad.
Are all the versions or evolutions of the Pokemon represented on that score tracker sheet?
Yes. Yeah. All the ones in the game.
So you need to get the base and then evolve them up to be able to get the extra ones to check them off on your boxes.
Yeah. Yeah, eventually. So
that's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, it's cool. I figured that might take a couple of games to do. So I only went with the Splendor, the $60 instead of like the 100 for all 3, because I played point salad enough, and that wasn't enough different for me. There's nothing different there. It's just sort of just different cards. It didn't seem like paying for it. And then the third game seemed like very like
I had no idea what it was.
It was like a Pikachu, like that bag of chips game kind of thing.
Okay. I was curious to see what they were playing that off of.
Yeah, there was just nothing. The other 2 games there was no changes to them, so I only went with the Pokemon Splendor one. So really, it's not. I mean, it's very the fact it's a good quality. The box isn't super thin. It's a little thinner than probably the regular boxes here, but
is it still Space Cowboys that produces it?
Yep, Space Cowboys and Korea board games. So it's probably in comply. Yeah. I mean, I have a feeling that eventually they're going to find a way to bring this to the States, just like with Comic Hunters. I think, that if you have a game that is, there are enough people in the States that are importing this where they'll eventually do it. My hope is it's about a year or 2 from now. So I can say that I got my copy for like with Comic Hunters, I got my copy for like 2 years before it came to the States. And actually still better quality from what I see.
Oh, I've seen some videos, questionable videos.
I mean,
about the component quality.
Yeah, $25 price point. You're not going to get, super thick cards and chits and things like that. But definitely,
I think Jesse from iHeart Games.
Yeah,
I think it is. He had like iHeart Board Games,
misprints and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I met him out in Louisiana over at Southern Board Game Fest, and he's been out to Dice Tower before. Him and his wife, and he showed his copy of Comic Hunters, and it had the cards were like off cut.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see they weren't centered. He even had the strips from the cuttings left in his box.
Yeah, they left like an impression on some of the cards. He's the only one that I've seen post a video that's that bad. I've seen a couple other videos where they've show kind of miscuts where the card is a little not centered perfectly, which it's not a huge deal. I think for me it's the little paper thin chips and stuff that the game came with that are, they're not that much better for the Brazilian version of it, but they were a little thicker at least. But I mean, it just gives people a chance to upgrade games, and
they did get it into Barnes and Noble, didn't they?
Yeah, that's that's great. I love it. Right? It's mass market. They made it into mass market. They're going to sell 100,000 copies of that game easy, probably. Especially at that price point, $25 or $30. Yep. That's great. I wonder though, like when you put a game like that in Barnes and Noble, and it's like Joe Schmo off the street comes in and goes, "Oh, cool! It's a game about comic book collecting, and this looks kind of cool, and it's all the superheroes." That game is a little bit tricky to understand because it's 4 different auction styles, and like, how many non-gamers are going to pick that game up and read the rule book and be like, "Oh, okay, I get this."
It's going back on their shelf.
Right, that's what I wonder. I always wondered, like, and that's what, like, I think, like Phil Walker Harding, praise be, like all the games he gets into mass market, they're fairly easy to understand. And like you read the rule book of most of his games and the targets and stuff like that, people just get it, right? You can a non-gamer can understand most of that. I don't know how easily. I think maybe I'm underestimating the general populace is people. Yeah. But I would think that people who have never gamed before, or even people who've done Monopoly and like the mass marketing type games, they might struggle with trying to figure out how that game works.
I agree, especially with the different ways to draft cards, that different card selection.
Right. And you do that, and then you have to make your collection, and then in between rounds.
And then the scoring.
Yeah.
I can see with the tags having issues, questions.
Yeah. I mean, it's great, though. I mean, I love any game that's going to get into the zeitgeist, or any game that's going to get publicity, any game that's going to bring more people into the hobby. Great. I just hope that, like, I really wish like Barnes & Noble would also do like learn to plays, or, you know, like that would be cool, right? Like get some, you know,
demo days
or something would be kind of cool. You know, like you could probably even get people to bring their copies, because I think any board gamer in an area would love to just like, hey, if Barnes & Noble, like, we'll give you 25% off anything you buy today, or 30% off anything you buy if you just come in and demo the game, right? And just let people, you know, whatever.
Because at the end of the day, it takes so much willpower for me not to step between someone and the shelf and be like, well, let me show you what you're looking at. What type of game are you looking for? Like, I'm always wanting to step in and see the person who's like browsing the games to be like, oh, what you like, what you looking at? What's the heaviest one you played?
You know, what's funny is I was in Target. My kid got a bunch of birthday cards from Target earlier this year, so he wanted to finally go and use them. And he was looking around, and I went to the board game area. And I'm looking at the board game area, and there's another guy there. And it was funny because at first I looked at him and I go, are you looking, what are you looking at? Right. I was like, you're saying, like, do I need to jump in here and give you some pointers? And then I saw him looking at me and I was like in like, I don't know, like the cheesy kids games area, right, or whatever. I see him kind of looking at me too. And like, I'm like, we kind of looked at each other and we're like, are you a gamer? I think we were both board gamers, and we were trying to figure out if either one of us needed help.
How do you broach that topic?
Yeah. And it was just kind of went on our way. But I could totally tell he was looking at me like, do I need to suggest a board game to you, man? Because don't take any of these games, because these are bad games. You should come down here. And I would do the same thing to him. So it was kind of interesting. So
that's that feeling. Like you said, any one of us would be willing to do that at Barnes & Noble, because we already want to do that even when we're just on our own personal time.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was one of the two games I got. What do you got?
I got a used game. This one is Storms of Steel. It is Conflict of Heroes. I know Robert and I talked about last week my copy of Conflict of Hero that I shopped off my own shelf. Third edition.
Good man.
But this is the third edition of their Storms of Steel. Storms of Steel is their Battle of Kursk. So if you're not familiar with 1943 Battle of Kursk, it's one of the largest tank battles in modern history. Like, it's just tank on tank on tank on tank. So I got a copy of this off of the BGG Marketplace. This is just from one of the sellers on there. He had it at a really good price. This is the third edition. It comes with all the fancy stuff that I showed from the last game with the nice component trays. Now, the components did go flying in this one because they did get shipped. So I got to get these components back into the trays. But it comes with the nice trays. And I got it for a really good deal, really good steal from the BGG Marketplace.
Nice.
Beans and Dice Podcast. State your name. Where you calling from?
This is Ron from Atlanta.
Luchador Ron.
So you saw my Super Lucha videos.
I did. Yeah. Now, what is Super Lucha compared to Super Show? And how are they connected?
Mechanically, it's the same game. It's literally just a retheme of Super Show with the Mucha Lucha IP, or as much as the creator Eddie Mort has access to.
What is a Mucha Lucha?
Mucha Lucha, apparently, it was. I was already an adult when the cartoon was on Cartoon Network. It was a lucha themed cartoon show on the Cartoon Network. Apparently, folks about 10, 15 years younger than me remember this fondly. Maybe not maybe not 10 years younger than me, but definitely people that were kids in the 90s. From what I've seen, just a lot of people that I've run across on the internet or in person, like, yeah, man, I used to watch that show all the time. I'm like, that's great. But it's a whimsical little, Mucha Lucha cartoon. They have their rudos and technicos. As you can see in the art, they changed. When they did their like special moves, they would change into objects like a giant hammer or a rocket or something like that. So it's a really cool re-theme of Super Show. That's basically it. It's on Kickstarter right now, which is why you saw a bunch of videos from me, because I got some preview material.
As the premier Super Show content creator out there, I wouldn't imagine you didn't get some preview stuff.
Yeah, I actually am, because I think there's folks with bigger following than I do, but I do more for Super Show than any other content creator out there. No doubt about it.
And I see it. I try to link it into the Discord, into our Discord when I see you posting it, but you beat me on that one. You led me to that video.
Yeah, so I thought you might. I wasn't sure if Mucha Lucha was a thing when you were a kid or anything like that. So
If it wasn't on Univision, I don't remember seeing that one.
Okay. Yeah. So folks that are listening that don't know what we're talking about, Super Lucha is a retheme of Super Show the game in the Mucha Lucha universe. And the object of the game is to get the 1, 2, 3 on your opponent. It's a card and dice game. You have a deck of 30 cards. You're trying to successfully play your finish card. To have a finisher play, you need a follow up. To get a follow up in play, you need a lead. So it's lead, follow up, finish. There's different move types: strikes, grapples, and submissions. Your deck has one of each type of finisher. If you successfully hit your finish, you roll a die for your finish roll. You compare that to the skill that you have on your character card, add relevant bonuses, and your opponent has 3 chances, 2, 3, to meet or exceed that number. If not, you win. If they do, they break out, you clear the board. There's a crowd meter that goes up by 1 that represents the crowd getting more and more into the match, and
Introducing
more intense and all that.
Wayne's got the Kickstarter. Wayne's got the Kickstarter videos going up.
I didn't know if the volume came through, so I was trying to mute it real quick. I don't know if it did.
No, you did fine. And it looked like a D12.
So it was originally a D6. It's just the D12 is just a D6 with twice the number of symbols.
No way.
Right.
No, but so is it? It's not 12 different symbols. It's 2. It's 6, and then the same. It has 2 of each symbol on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. I actually went and bought the what do they call them? They call them double D6s. So it's 12-sided dice that only that run the 1 through 6 pips, right? But having 12 sides and being that polyhedral, it just kind of rolls better. So there's more randomness, I feel.
So Carlos, let me tell you a story. The reason why Super Show has those types of dice in the first place is because of me. There's a guy in the community that makes custom dice, and people like to go to him. And I said, "Hey, can you make a custom 12-sided die?" I'm like, "Sure, I can, but you're not going to be able to use it in competitive play." I'm like, "I don't care. I just want it for myself to play with my friends. I don't care about using this in a tournament." Well, the owner of the company saw those dice and is like, "Hey, man, can you make some for me?" And there you have it. So now Super Show and Super Lucha has the
gone to the
D12.
The D12, which I think, because I tried to take them to a tournament for Blood Bowl, and I got booed out of there. Like they called the tournament organizer, like, no, you can't use these.
They were having none of that.
No, like what are these? What are you cheating with? Get out of here. they chased me out of there so fast. I had to go back to my D6s. I still think the 12-sided dice provides more randomness than the standard D6.
I agree with you.
It's a nice roll. It's not like a drop.
Yeah, sometimes you're like D4, D6. Sometimes it just lands and it like boom, like there's no, unless you got a cool mat that bounces on.
That'll be in the next Kickstarter.
Yeah. So Ron, so basically though, it's really just aesthetic differences between Super Show and Super Lucha. They're really the same game.
Yep.
So if you want to get into it, you get into one or the other, or you can get both. But are they interchangeable? Can you play the Super Lucha guys over with the Super Show?
Absolutely.
Nice. Okay.
So obviously Super Lucha won't be coming out till next year.
Right.
So they this is not the first time that Super Show has done like a different theme on their game. They also had like an anime fighting theme game called Ikuzo, but that's long out of print. They're in the process of doing a reprint with updated art and everything like that. So this is not a thing. This is not something that's not the first time that they've done that. And so that's one of the appeals of Super Show to me. It's like, they can do different things, with the themes, and you can have Batman fight Triple H or something wild like that, right? Although there's no Batman in this game, but there are superhero themed characters.
I like it. I still need to play Super Show. Like I think that's the kind of game that I don't know if I necessarily want to own it, but I would love to go to one of the events and have it and just get into a character and have fun with it. It's kind of like something that you could definitely get into. I can see. I love those videos that we watched of the tournaments that they have.
I didn't see them at Dice Tower East this year. I was going to make sure because I remember they were there a couple of years ago, and I was hoping to see them this year.
They were there last year because, that's how I found out about the game. Like literally after the Beans and Dice show, after my appearance on the show, I left the show, and they were set up in the corner of the big gaming hall and talked to me into sitting down and trying out the game for 10 minutes. So in part, I have you to either thank or blame for my current obsession, Carlos.
I have a feeling that a lot of the beaners that watch this show can blame us for some poor decisions.
Yeah, I think I've bought more games in the last few years, having been on this show now, than I did probably the 4 or 5 years prior to coming onto this show. It's
I just tell my wife it's all for the show. It's for the show. Hey,
so I missed the beginning of the show. Where's
Robert is celebrating his birthday tomorrow, but today, and I think today and tomorrow, he's dropping off his daughter at the University of Florida in Gainesville, Florida. So she's on her way to college. He's dropping her off this weekend, doing all the tours of the university, all the orientation. So he's doing dad duty, proud papa, squeeze type stuff.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
I'm proud for him.
Yeah, that's cool. So in other news, I got my copy of Comic Hunters. I'm very excited about.
I'm hoping to hear from you on the production quality. Just a moment ago, Wayne and I were discussing some of the stuff that we've seen and heard about with regards to the American edition of Comic Hunters and the quality or concerns with quality.
So I haven't fully pulled it out of the box. I took it out of it. First of all, it
Yeah, which is the little stickers, right?
Yep. It was not very tightly packed. Like they had the paper, like the paper wrappers to keep the cards in place, and obviously stuff was sliding out, all around and everything like that. The board, I don't think it's of the highest quality, but I don't think it's too bad. I haven't really played around with the cards yet, so I can't speak on that. But like, I have definitely seen some higher quality board game production.
And that's what I'm hearing.
But like, maybe they spent all the money on the IP. Like,
are you okay with sharing the price point at which you got it at?
I got it for $40, I think.
Okay, that's not insignificant.
No, I mean,
I think a lot of that money probably did go to the IP.
Yeah, I mean, you got to pay for those rights, right? Somehow. But I thought Spin Master had all the rights already.
I thought I remember thinking, man, this is right outside of my my $35 range. So like, almost, I'm as I'm talking, I'm looking up my.
But I think Spin Master had rights for like comic stuff, but I think it's the comic book covers.
Right. That's what I mean.
Yeah. Yep, it was $40. It was $40. So like, I'm not complaining about the quality of the game, the production. I mean, I spent $40 for it.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, if you sleeve the cards, and I really think that the thing that I would have the most issue is the paper thin tokens. But like they've already people for like $10-12, they have whole sets of them on Etsy, or I'll probably get some files and print off some nicer ones. But that would be, but or put them in coin capsules if you have some extra coin capsules, just throw them in there and then you'd be good. So
yeah. So we'll see. If I have the opportunity, I'm going to be heading to a guy's birthday game day. So I should, if anything interesting comes about it, I'll definitely be talking about it on next week's show.
Nice. We'll be glad to hear you give your beans on what you thought of it. I know we gave our beans a few weeks back, a few months back now.
Did we do the full beans on this?
We gave some beans.
Okay.
We spilled some beans, some initial beans.
We need to do
I think Nick Oben, right?
Maybe, yeah. Do
was
a
Nick Oben with us?
version. Yeah, Nick was with us. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'll be interested to see if Ron. I'll be interested to see if I know that you really hyped on the game. You loved it at last year's Dice Tower East. I'll be interested to see if that sort of enthusiasm holds through. Mine really hasn't. I still love the game. Like I played it a bunch. Probably haven't played it in 4 or 5 months now, or since we played it at Carlos's. But I think this might be a game I bust out next week to play with the wife. I think she would enjoy it.
Yeah. So you cooled on it a little bit?
No, I didn't cool on it. No, I just need to get at the table more. It's just like I'm trying to I blame Carlos's board. I'm constantly trying to play new games or different games that I've already played this year.
Don't blame my board. I don't chase new games. I just put the same games back up
new,
there.
Just different. Like just
well, new to me. I don't even chase new to me.
Yeah, I've already retired Comic Hunters to my Hall of Fame, and so I have no regrets there. No regrets there. It's a great game. Love it. Because and that's like why I like going back to, I think, Ron, you missed, I got the Pokemon Splendor in the mail. Bought it from eBay from Korea. I like games with theme, and I like that Pokemon game is dripping the theme of catching Pokemon and evolving them. Comic Hunters just perfectly encapsulates comic book collecting and
the different parts of comic book collecting. That's what really stood out to me. Like like the part where you're perusing the convention aisles feels like perusing the convention aisles, right? Yep. Like the part where you're like going through the stacks of comics at the comic book shop, like feels, you know what I'm saying? Like it did a really good job, Wayne.
Yep. So,
yeah. I hear you. I hear you, man. I like the theme of my game too. I mean, that's part of the reason why I love Super Show so much. I really feel like the mechanics and the card play emulates what I think that a wrestling game should be.
Should be, yeah.
Because I've yet to find a football game that does it for me. Because I want sports themed games.
Yeah.
I think I'm pretty sure I've talked about bottom of the ninth before.
Yes.
Some people are not so hot on it, but I love bottom of the ninth. That's I'm not into Stratomatic baseball or anything like that.
Hey, don't be hating. Don't be hating. As I look at my stack of Stratomatic games up there. But you're right, Ron. It gives a different feeling that Stratomatic doesn't. So Stratomatic has this more strategic manager level of play where you're deciding batting order, right? Whether or not to bunt, whether or not to steal. Bottom of the ninth distills it to the pitching piece of it. Just one inning of pitching and swinging. And Wayne, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the mechanism that it uses. It has the pitcher taking two tokens.
Right.
One token has high and low. One token has away and inside. So you're going to decide if you want to pitch, high and inside, try to pitch it real close to somebody's face and scare them, right? Or if you want to pitch low and away, try to get them whiffing, right? Or any combination outside of that.
And
so
the
pitcher's going to set
has
their
to do
coin.
the same thing. They're aiming for. They're trying to guess the quadrant. Yeah. So it's
and depending on how good you do at that will determine the result of the hit. But the pitcher has kind of these levels that they exhaust, right? As they start to use their good pitch, they might run out of high pitches. Right. So now you kind of start to nail them into, okay, it's got to be a low pitch until he gets some energy back. He can't. Ron, you're right. Bottom of the ninth, it feels good because when you get somebody on a pitch, you feel like you got them.
Right. It simulates that last inning of a game. But I'm totally with you, Ron. I would love more really good sports-based games. I almost bought 11, the Football Manager from the Dice Tower flea market. Yeah, but just the reviews of it are just not great. It's more of it doesn't do a good job of simulating the gameplay of soccer, football. But it's more about just running the team, which I still might try to pick up a copy. I know someone that has it, but I would love a really good soccer game, soccer football, whatever. But also American football too. I mean, you have Blood Bowl and you have other football-ish games, but there really is not just that game that you go, that's the game that simulates football.
One last thing on this topic, and then I'm going to hang up on football. So there's a game that's been around for a good long time now called First and Goal.
I got it.
I feel like it's close. I really, and they've reprinted the game and they've made a dice version of it called First and Roll, which is even simpler. But I feel like First and Goal is I like it, and I still have it in my collection to this day. But I feel like it needs just a little bit more texture.
Yes, it is a game that I will gladly introduce to any non-gamer who enjoys football. Right? It could be a game sold at Target and at Walmart, and Wayne, you won't have to worry, like we talked about earlier, about them reading the rules and not understanding it. It's that simple. Now they did add expansion teams, right? So you can go buy all kinds of teams that were directionally accurate to the teams of their time, right? They try to kind of play towards the NFL, gold and black and gold, right? So for the Steelers, but they weren't really the Steelers.
Like the New Orleans team had really good offensive dice, but their defensive die was really swingy. So it's that was accurate to the Saints at the time. sling it, but that defense was kind of like, sometimes they get a great big play, and sometimes they just get toasted.
They did a good job with that because some teams were more into the running game and some were more into the throwing game. I love it kind of gives you that feel from the bottom of the ninth, Ron. Tell me if I'm wrong. Where like you're trying to set up your play and trying to outsmart the other player. Like I know I should be running this, but I think I'm gonna go for a short toss, right? But he's gonna play a run defense, and they're like, "I got you."
Yep. I would play. I'm at a couple of variants, like one like an overtime variant, and then also both have an NFL overtime variant and a college football overtime variant. Particularly the college football overtime variant is like, because I wanted to emulate that feeling of bottom of the ninth, where it's like the game's gonna be over quick, right? So, and I feel like for the level of complexity that game is, that's what you need. Not a game that's the same repetitive process, and that can take 2 hours if you're going to play a full game.
See, that's an interesting thing too. Is like, you've got like, it's hard to simulate an entire football game, an entire soccer match, an entire basketball game. But if you do the microcosms, like I just popped my head, like you could easily take the concept of bottom of the ninth with the where you're pitching and just do the penalty shoot of a soccer match. Yep. The goalie's got to go one way with it, and I'm got to go one way, and I have special kicks. He's got to intimidate. You could encapsulate, just have it be like penalty kick, right? The bottom of the ninth, whatever similar thing with like football, like it's the overtime, right? And you're just doing, you have to, Tecmo Bowl, and you have your 4 plays. I have my 4 plays, and we're picking which one.
Flip the coin, who gets possession first, and who's going to score.
That might be the better way of handling some of the sporting events. So.
But what's great about that whole genre, Ron, is, and I remember this, Robert and I, when Rob used to work at the company I'm at, we would go down for lunch together. We'd have lunch and we'd play games, right? That's how we'd spend our lunch together. We'd play board games. When we played Summoner Wars, we were down by the mailroom in this kind of like little corner all by ourselves, like real hidden away, right? But when we brought out...
I don't want to show off board games.
Right. But when we had first and goal, we're in the cafeteria. We're like in the middle of everybody. We're like, whatever. Like people, we weren't afraid to let our flag fly for like a sports game because there wasn't as much judgment as there was of, oh, well, he's the dwarves and I'm the jungle lizards. Like,
great. Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Nice.
All right, guys. Well, this was a great discussion. I think you stumbled upon something here at the end of this conversation, Wayne.
Yeah, maybe.
You might want to.
I've come up with a couple of different games. I just need to start designing these things, right?
What you got to do is go back and listen to the show.
The Olympics ones. The one last week about the Olympics, and everyone's a country and who gets the most medals. But hey, Ron, before you go though, did you get a chance to play the video game Hero board game yet?
No, I haven't.
Okay, that's the other one that I'm kicking myself that I didn't play that at Dice because it's a Brazilian game too, and it's coming to the States, and it's all about you're a kid. And like you're trying to balance your chores and like homework and obligations while making money to go rent video games to become the video game champion. So it's like a throwback to when we all would go to like Blockbuster Video, try to get that video game and save and whatever, So I was like, oh, that's another theme that would hit real good with me and my wife and so that. So that's one I'm looking for. I might have to just buy that one to try because I've heard it's really good as well. So.
All right. I got another game. I got to look up.
Yeah, look up video games, like video game champion, video game store champion, something like that.
See, now you got me busting out my copy of Bottom of the Ninth. It's on the table right now. I know you're not watching. It's now because it was right behind me. It's on my table. I got the rule book out, and I'm gonna have to get this played again.
Carlos, we're gonna have to play over Discord.
We gotta find a way, or on my way south on Sunday in October. I'm going to have to meet up with you for lunch on the way down.
There you go.
All right. Let's make that happen.
All right, brother. Thanks for calling. Thanks for making a call and show.
All right.
Bye.
Take it easy.
Thanks, man. So Chester's telling Jungle Lizards. Outrageous.
That was our worry. Like we played some weird games at work.
HeroClix plus Super Show equals Combo Wombo.
We'd wait till after hours and we'd bust out our Star Wars set at the end of the day, like on the ping pong table.
Were you afraid that like some like big guys
X-Wing.
gonna walk by and yell nerds at you or something? Like
Actually, yes, we were.
Yeah, crazy. Oh man, now I gotta think about like sports games. Dude, that's like a genre that I feel like just there's not a lot of really good sports games that are board game related.
No, I think bottom of the ninth is a solid one, light to midweight. I would call it midweight. All right, I was talking about Conflict of Heroes, Storms of Steel, buying it on BGG.
Yeah,
I was going to share that I do buy on BGG Marketplace. It seems to work for me. I haven't had any issues with any purchases on BGG Marketplace. Have you heard any horror stories? I always worry about
really
that.
Haven't. Like I really should look through there more frequently when I'm looking for a particular game just to see if it's out there. But it's good to know that you've bought from them a number of times already, and it's. Never
I always
really
look to see how many sales that person has done through the BGG Marketplace,
right?
And I feel like the BGG like polices itself pretty well.
Yeah, like if someone stiffs you or whatever, you're gonna post it somewhere, and they're gonna, whatever. Interesting. Off that topic or on that topic, I don't know if you listened to the Alaboom last night, right? Did you?
I did not catch it last night.
Okay. They were talking about various things, and I guess there's like I'm sure there's a ton of different websites where you can go and find out what is the value of a website, like how much its expected value is. What do you think BGG's website's worth, according to the website they looked at last night? Lance pulled up a website, and Aldi was like, "Oh, come on, that's not accurate."
Just probably based on hits, right?
Probably hits, usage. I don't, traffic. Whatever. What ballpark? What do you think that this website estimated the value of BGG's website?
And usually, like the value is just like a few years of possible revenue. I'd probably put it $500,000, $1 million. Really?
Keep going.
How high up?
They were estimating the value of the BGG website to be $80 million.
And it was at this point that he shut off the Alaboom and sold it?
Yeah. No, I don't think Aldi like he was saying that's BS. It's nowhere near worth that amount. But like, and I checked a couple of sites and they were saying 72, 74 in that, in that range. And it's like, it's probably has to do with, it is a sales front, right? It has hits, it has advertising, like probably the hits drive, like people go into that website are insane compared to other websites. Like I go to BGG a couple times a day, so I'm sure it's
times a day for me.
I'm sure it's inflated, but let's just be honest. Like even if you said it was half that or a quarter of that, it's still 20 million, or 15 to 20 million. So when you think about it, I mean, board gaming is a couple $1 billion industry, right? And BGG is the site for board gaming. So you would think that it would be, fairly well, I mean, and in the grand scheme of like websites under 100 million, I mean, I could probably name 10 or 12 or 20 websites off the top of my head that are worth way more than that, but anyway, I thought that was interesting. I was like, holy cow, like Jesus.
You think we're such a niche group of folks, but we're also a passionate group.
Yeah.
Chad says they need to buy better hockey jerseys. I like those BGG jerseys.
Yeah. I want to get. I gotta get some better beans and dice stuff. I want to get a Redbubble store going or something so that I can get like my own soccer jersey. I want to get a soccer jersey with the beans and dice logo on it. That'd be cool.
I know we did the baseball jerseys. That might be a good idea. I thought about the hockey jerseys, but that can get pretty hot. You get into a Florida game store, right? Yeah. Wearing those, it'll get hot.
So some of those, the big long sleeves or whatever. I like it. You guys got the baseball jerseys. Those are nice. Those are like because you're like the OG ones, but I wouldn't mind doing.
No, it's time for new ones. They kind of smell. I gave it a break tonight. I know with the boss out of town, with Rob out of town, I figure I don't have to wear the uniform.
You don't wash it. You don't wash it at all.
I'm afraid it's China made. I'm afraid all the letters will fall off.
Gotta Febreze it.
Yeah, it's kind of like a dry clean thing we do with it.
Yeah.
Chad says, I made some great trades in the BGG trade market. I've never traded games.
I should do that too. I really should.
There is a virtual flea market using BGG coming up here in September.
Yeah, in the Brandon
I think it is.
area.
The Brandon board gamers are doing it. Our friend of the show, Patrick Havert, is doing it. He also used to run Beans and Dice, or I'm sorry, used to run the Dice Tower East. Now he runs Escape WinterCon.
WinterCon, yeah.
I already made a purchase on there.
What did you buy?
I put in, so Patrick himself is selling his copy of Battlelore 2nd Edition for 20 bones, bro. 20 bones for a war game with a ton of minis. It's a board game, war game with a ton of minis.
I got rid of my Battlelore at one of your turn.
First edition? I think yours was first edition, right?
Yeah, it was first. Yeah, maybe it was first.
Second edition is amazing, and I'm afraid because it's out of print through FFG, if I lose pieces, lose cards, I like having those, just a second copy just tucked away.
So when are you going to put up some of your own games to sale?
That's exactly what my wife said as soon as I told her I put in a bid. She's like, I wasn't sure if you're going to put some of your stuff up. And I'm looking around like, okay. I
gotta work. Yeah, I'm working on it. I'm going to keep like poking you until you tell me to shut up or
until I
acquiesce and start selling some stuff.
It's not fair. I make you sit on board games when you come over here. It's so many of them.
So you always have plenty of room. It's always more room than you think. You don't think there's enough room there, but there's plenty. Like,
well, I'm taking your idea for adding that 5x5 calyx over on this wall.
Yeah.
So Wayne's idea was to put a calyx over on this wall here, and I think
and it fits.
That'll be another third of games that I can put.
Yeah, because you can put all your supplies in the ones that are below the table, right? Like all the bags and miscellaneous stuff and your mats down there, and then in the upper ones you got more room for games. And I'm telling you, man, you gotta get into the realm of taking the expansions and condensing. You'd be surprised.
I'm starting to. I think it's going to start with getting the inserts out, which is something I started to do after Dice Tower. When we pulled those games from the Dice Tower library, they had all the baggies, and every baggie was Dymo labeled.
Yep.
So Wayne has already seen. I started that process with some of my games where I'm just going and Dymo labeling. I bought a whole bunch of baggies.
You got to tell me
sizes.
what labeler you bought, because I'm gonna get one of those for Christmas, I think.
Oh, this one's old as dirt. It's my wife's. I took it from her scrapbooking area.
There you go.
Don't tell her.
Yeah.
And I've been using that. Any other hot hauls for you?
Not necessarily. You need to install one of the kids into college. Boom, way more stay.
Yeah.
There you go.
The problem is, Chad, I can't stop making them. So as soon as one gets out, another one takes the room.
Yeah, exactly.
I got to figure out how this happens. Like, I don't understand.
You see, when a man and a woman.
When a man.
So it's not new games, not really new hotness, but at Dice Tower, I had a lot of fun playing games with the normal Beans and Dice crew, but also my wife and kid were there. We sat down and we played through a bunch of the kids' table board games. And so I already owned Creature Comforts, and family loves Creature Comforts. And then my kid liked this Fossilis game from Kids Table War Games. Kind of cool. It's very like put this way up, Fossilis.
So show the back of that. This is the one that you're digging down?
Yeah. So you have the board. You create this board, and it's built up, and then as you're digging, you're taking either the rock or the sand or the soil out of there, and as you dig down, you'll open up a well that has bones in it, and then you get little tweezers, and you do like the little doctor with operation where you go in there and you gotta like pull the bone out, but it's not gonna buzz or anything like that. You pull it, so you don't really need to do that. You can just go in with your finger and grab it. It comes with a little tweezer zone. And as you're pulling the bones out, you then have the dinosaur fossil cards where you can complete the fossil, and you can put it in the museum or you can put it in your private collection. So you're generating points by completing fossils and digging up the bones and stuff like that. So it was cool. He enjoyed it. It was fun. It was a game that I enjoyed to play. It's again that kids table board game. So same size box, same kind of iconography, same kind of setup. So that one's hit. So now I own two of them that are here. I
think one's en route.
Yeah, two more are en route actually. So I got this one, and Creature Comforts are here in the house. Rec.
Rec Raiders.
What happened there? You're diving down into the water to collect shells and pieces of wreckage and whatever, and you're building either aquariums for the aquarium, or you're building your private collection. So similar story concept to Fossilist, but you're doing it underwater. But it's kind of cool. You roll the dice into the box top, and it shows you where the dice are, and then you're drafting dice where your guy places. It's another fun game. It's a game that the kid likes to play because it's got some toy factor. It's got some cool, thing. But it's enough there for me to be entertained with it, and I really enjoyed it, and my wife really did too. So we'll have the 3 big boxes, and then from Gen Con, I just haven't seen my buddy yet. Picked up a game called Capybaras, which is a capybara coffee cafe, and again, it's very much creature comforts. That same iconography, the same kind of setup, but it's a card game where you're trying to serve coffee and desserts and croissants or whatever, muffins to capybaras. So it's cute. So yeah, so kind of went all in on the kids table board games because I feel like those are games that on a weekend day or something like that, my kid's bored and is sitting there watching YouTube or something. I'd be like, hey, wait, let's bust out this game, let's play it. So, and I think maybe his friends might get into some of them. So we'll see. But that's the 2 on the way, 2 it here. So that's my haul. So
here's my last one for the haul. I'm super excited about this one.
Ooh.
It is Ezra and Nehemiah by Garfield Games and Renegade Games. This is Shem Phillips and Sam McDonald, or S.J. McDonald. This is their latest in the, I don't know, the Shem and Sam series of games, like the Viscounts and the West Kingdoms, and they're historical based games. But this one is based in Old Jerusalem, so ancient Jerusalem, when in that time the Jews were allowed to go back and rebuild the temple after it had been destroyed. You're playing 1 to 4 players. Your goal is to build the walls back up, but you have to remove the rubble in order to build the walls up. You got to keep the temple flame burning because you want that burning 24 hours a day. And you also have to teach out of the Torah and take care of the people who are encamped around the temple. So there's a lot going on Euro-wise. It's, I think, like a 3.8 on weight.
Wow. Okay. So it's a little heavier than most of their games, right?
But I think that's going to stem more from the Ancients line, Chester calls it. Yes, something along the same box size as like Hadrian's Wall, Viscounts. It's a very similar box size. So I think it's very tightly packed into this one game. I'm excited about this one. This one I think I'm going to tie into like a Bible study at the same time that I'm playing this game and learning this game and setting up the box. I'm going to read through the books of Ezra and the book of Nehemiah just to really better understand the history of that time period. Like what was recorded historically. How did Shem turn that into mechanisms into this game?
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. I'm all about the box size. Like, I think, even like, I could get behind all these Euros coming out with it, pack it as tight as possible. Took a while, but like, I think the first, I could be wrong, but the first game that really did it was the Clans of Caledonia, where they got packed that box as tight as can be and then shrank everything down 20% to make it smaller to fit it all in. So if you give me those size boxes, I'll get 3 or 4. I'll get like say 4 in an area that I would get 2 of the old school kind of Ticket to Ride size boxes. So I'm okay with that. So, doing an unboxing.
Yeah, I've been itching to open this one up. We got.
I'm surprised it's not already open. Yeah.
Chad in the chat. He says, wait, there it is. I'm still waiting for the game that has a capybara, a kookaburra, and a chupacabra that fight each other. I think we might see that in an unmatched series. He says, I hear Ezra and Nehemiah is a really heavy game. I wish they would get back to their midweight games. Chad, I'll tell you, in my reviews, the reason I pulled the trigger on this one, my understanding is that this one takes a step back in complexity. not
even though the weight
strategy.
is heavy, right? So that you think the weight is mostly about the strategy. Not about the gameplay. Yeah.
And I've read the majority of the rules, and I've watched 2 sets of videos on how to play. There are 3 main actions that you're doing. So at minimum, you can just keep it to the 3 main actions, which have to do with rebuilding the wall, have to do with teaching the Torah, and have to do with taking care of the temple, of keeping the flame going. So, and all those 3 actions are tied into the card that you play every round. Every round, you're going to play a character card. They're much like White Castle. There are 3 rounds, except in this game, there are 6 turns per round. So we'll each take 6 actions in each of the 3 rounds. On the 7th day, the Sabbath, we rest. Shocking, isn't it? And that's when we score points. We're going to score points 3 times throughout the game. The cards that you play have multiples of up to 3 different colors. So like gray, red, and blue banners on them. There are 3 banners on every card, and they're just in different variations of colors. And as you play the card, you're going to use those color banners to help you take an action. Either a red action at the temple, a blue action at the teaching of the Torah, or a gray action, which is rebuilding the wall. So each of your 6 turns, you're going to take one of those main actions. What's cool is they have 3 slots that you play your character cards out to. So you get to play 1, 2, and then 3 cards. On your 4th, 5th, and 6th turn, you're going to cover up one of the cards that you've already played. But whenever you play a card and then take your main action, you're going to count the number of banners that are visible. So on your first action, it's only 1 card with only 3 banners, right? Depending on what colors are on that card. By the time you're playing your 3rd card, you now have 3 cards face up, and you're counting all the banners of the cards that you played. So if I take a red action to go to the temple, I look at all 3 cards and count up how many red banners are on all those cards, and that's how many things I can do with the temple. Now it gets tough when you get to your 4th, 5th, and 6th action because you have to cover up a card. Which card do you cover up to take what action? So that's where a lot of the decision space is. So they really simplified it down to just that card play and banner counting. So my understanding is that, Chad, this takes a step back in complexity. The rulebook is, I'll say, without including the solo. Let me get to so we got what gets us to page 29, and the rules start right around page 8. So after setup, page 8. So it's 21 pages of rules, but it's like
pretty heavy.
It's like a 12 point like new Times New Roman font. Like this is not it's not thick with text.
Yeah. That's still decent. It's still a decent sized rule book though.
Yes. I have read through the majority of the rules. I'm working through the auxiliary actions, which you get 1 free auxiliary action each turn that you can take. But I think the complexity is really going to be in the scoring. Yeah. So like the multipliers and the different mechanisms used to score, which I am okay with. If I can teach you the basics of how to play, maybe you won't know how to score strong or how to win well, but you'll know how to mess with the mechanisms, and that'll create that replayability to say, I want to come back and try this differently to get that score up.
Yep. Cool.
This one I'm excited about.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely. The theme for you is hitting home, right?
You have no idea.
That's your jam as far as themes go. So, yeah.
Let's see what's in here. Let's take a peek.
Yeah.
Phone lines are open, 813-618-7099. If I'm boring you, call in and change it.
Call-in show.
So we got a bag here, canvas bag. We've got the 40-page rule book, which about 21 of that is specific to rules for how to play.
Now, is it the other pages? The first 8 pages is giving you the history. Is it like are they trying to teach you? Like
no, it gives 1 page of history. The rest is like the components. They did a really good job of like showing components.
Yeah.
So there's nice big pages that go through the components, and then it takes you through setup.
Okay.
Which there's a lot of little pieces here for setup, so I can see why the setup took that long. But then when it comes to gameplay, looks like about 21 pages. You got double-sided boards. So nice, thick, double-sided boards that are
slotted,
so the pieces and the cards can sit in there. There's 4 of those, 1 to 4 players. You've got the actual board itself. This is the solo board. This is a board for solo gaming. The actual board itself. Let's see how big this is. And I think that's why it feels so complex, is because it's condensed onto this small board, Wayne. You know the size of this table. This isn't really that big.
No, that's not a very big board at all.
Here's a reference beer, so you can see. I won't spill it on there. But there's a lot on here. That's the first thing that scared me when I first saw the game.
Yeah, it's
There's
busy.
just so many spots.
And the outside stuff, that's also like play. That's not just artwork. That's play spots too, right? On the outside.
Right. These are all of the walls and the gates, right?
Yeah.
So every place is a spot for cards. Every spot on the wall is going to have a place where there's rubble. So first thing you have to do is remove the rubble off the spot where the card would go. Once the rubble is clear, you can then spend resources to rebuild that wall. When you rebuild that wall, you're going to get bonuses for creating that wall, and then you get to play your cards on there, dictating you have control of that, or you place that, or you did that. That's where you get your points from there. The temple, you're putting stones into the temple, resources into the temple. It's kind of a place where you're trying to fill up spaces. Not quite patchwork level, right? It's very small, but it's a part of the game. And once certain sections are filled in, points will trigger. Once certain rows are filled in, points will trigger. Then you've got the Levites. You're sending your workers to become Levites. Levites increase the amount of work that you can do when you take the action. So like if I take a temple action, I'm only going to be able to do up to the number of Levites that I have there. So that's where you want to send your workers to be Levites in this section. Over here is the temple itself. There's going to be these 2 prophets, and one's black, one's white. They're going to be on this left-right track. And as you place them on there, depending on where you are with your temple marker, you want to increase that, because when there's judgment time on the Sabbath, you're going to get rewards or penalties based on where you are. If you're to the left of the black prophet, you're getting penalties. If you're in the middle between the black and the white prophet, it's kind of okay. But if you're to the right of the white prophet, you're getting much more benefits. So it's another track to monitor. And then over here is this little map of the temple, and then all the tent sites outside. And this is almost like a rondelle that you're going to be moving your tent around as you visit the different tent sites, your worker around these little tent sites, and getting resources, little bonus resources as you move them around. So it feels like there's these different places you're going to be going to. A lot of that ADD part that I like, where there's like so many different little things I can do.
Right.
This board is beautiful.
Yeah, and it's good artwork. And I think, like Chad said, that they've he's a Bible reader, so he likes when it's taken seriously. Because there's a lot of historical stuff there.
I'm with Chad on that one.
They researched the actual coins to make them match, what the archaeology found. I like that. That's good. If you're gonna give us coins, make it look like the actual coins that would have been around that time period. So,
yeah, I think Shem is an unabashed Christian. If you can Google on YouTube his testimony, and he talks about his testimony of how his faith was strengthened through his Kickstarters, right? When he thought things were going to go terrible, and his faith that he put in. And I think this is an homage to him. These coins are beautiful. Cardboard shits, and then lots and lots of cardboard, Wayne. Lots of cardboard tokens.
Yeah.
I'm excited about all this punching. And then
it's like
it comes
Zen,
with baggies.
Yeah.
So now I can just get the dynamo out.
Punching a game is like meditation. Put on a game or some kind of thing, and nice. I'll probably be
thick wooden cubes.
Yeah, soccer season starts Saturday, so I'll probably wake up early for the 7:30 game. So I'll punch games while I'm watching. So
lots of little meeples, wooden meeples, blessings. These are different, like wine holding, like jars, oil holding jars. These are the blessings.
Nice.
Temple flames in here, and then of course the beautiful art, that style that you're used to from Hadrian's Wall or
yeah, this one has a little bit of a different art style than the other
Scythia.
games. The Raiders of Scythia, but like the Raiders and the other the Scholars and those kind of ones that had a slightly different art style than these. Right, these are a little bit more realistic, or like not as
No, it's still
cartoony than
very
Raiders?
cartoony.
Is it? Okay. Let me see. See, I don't know. That does not look nearly as cartoony as, say, Raiders or the North Sea games. I could be wrong. Sam disagrees with us. She says, yuck, punching games. You could just, Sam's, you probably got a couple hundred games that you need to punch. So you just let us know and we'll take care of that for you.
You'll never see your game again.
Yeah. Ron Fraser saying cardboard.
All right, so I'm going to get this one learned and play maybe two-handed so that when you and Rob are back at the house, we can get a 3-player game. I'm hearing 3 players is a great sweet spot, but I'm also hearing that 4 players is still very good. This is one of the unlike other Euro games where 4 is a bit too much. The actions are very snappy. By the time it gets back to you, even at a 4-player game, it's decent.
So let's see the artist for Raiders of the North Sea. So he said isn't Shem's brother does the art. So I don't think so. Let's see, Shipwrights, North Sea, Architects, Wayfarers. So yeah, so this guy, Mahalo Dimitrescu, also known as D'Amico.
Oh, this is D'Amico?
No, he does most of the artwork for a lot of his games. Scholars,
no, this one's done by
Inventors.
Sam Phillips.
Is it? Yeah. So then
his brother.
Yeah. So his brother did the artwork. So it is different artists.
Which he did, I think, Circadian's First Light, I think it is. Yeah. Circadian's First Light, which that was pretty rough, but he has improved. He has continued to improve.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, Chad. Now for seems like for that it's his brother, and that's why I said that's why I think that artwork looked considerably different to me than the Raiders and Scholars and all those other ones because that was the Miko who did those. So
yeah, which he's amazing.
Yeah,
and I think this is like at a $45 price point. So that's a good price point for a heavy Euro.
Yeah, I feel like there's like a trend of like you have the White Castle, and there is a trend now to hit that $40 to $50 game in a smaller box Euro, and then there's the $50, $60 bigger box Euro, and then there's the crazy deluxe 100+ ones. So I'll give it a try.
All right, let's talk about any plays that we've had recently. Phone lines are open, 813-618-7099. Any recent plays for you?
Yep, I did. But actually, before that, I want to throw out an interesting stat because I like to, we're going to brag about Florida, and our counterpart Rob is dropping his daughter off at the University of Florida right now. If the University of Florida was a country, where would they have finished in the medal count?
We're talking about actual people from University of Florida that were at the Olympics.
If the University of Florida athletes that competed in the Olympics were their own country, they would have been the 16th. They would have finished 16th in the medal count.
That's insane.
Yeah. University of Florida graduates and current students earned 11 medals, 4 gold, 4 silver, and 3 bronze. And that would have put them at 16th. They would have been right below Spain as far as
now you see why Lonnie was a do or die Gator.
Yeah. They're the of all the major universities in America, they're the highest. They have the most medals. There's Wisconsin and Texas, and then some of those other ones are up there. But that was as I was looking at Florida stuff just now, I was like, oh, okay, shoot, that's pretty high. So, and I'll get in my gameplay in a second. But see, Chad saying another thing that Garfield games do well is like Red Ribbon games, they keep it with the same iconography. Yeah, and I think that's huge to me. That's why I'm into the kids table board games, because for my kid, all these games have similar gameplay or similar iconography. I can get behind the the Garfield games and Red Ribbon games. I think you have to do that now, man, because there's so many games out there. So if you have a line of games and you can have similar iconography, or you have maybe different gameplay, but you standardize your icons, it makes tabling your game so much easier.
I think Chad talked about that when he called in last week about the idea of a system and a company just using a system within different themes. That same idea permeates in this, which is if your games can have similar iconography, the ease of picking up your next title will help bring more buyers.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it basically sold me on buying 3 or 4 different kids table board games and sticking with it because of their consistency. Plays last week. I've actually only played one game this past week. It was the first week of school, so a little rough. But my wife and I just last night played Endangered, which is a cooperative game where you are there's different scenarios. You're trying to save a specific animal species. Last night we actually did the giant panda. We saved the giant panda from extinction. We pull up Endangered here. I mean, if I can spell it right. There we go. Endangered. Ah. All right, there we go. Sorry for the dead air. That was horrible. So Endangered is a cooperative game, sort of similar to Pandemic or any of the other, sort of games where you're trying to save or save the world or whatever. But in this case, it's different various animals. So in this, the base game comes with like tigers and sea lions or sea otters or something like that. And then there's been expansions that have like the tapir and cheetah and condor and the giant panda and monarch butterflies and stuff like that. And basically in the game, you are playing a character, right? So like last night I played the environmental lawyer and my wife played the social media darling, right? Because she's like, why not? But you have like that, and you have like the TV show, animal TV show guy, or the activist and the politician, whatever. And each character comes with their own deck of cards where they, as you're playing these cards, you get to do actions. And what's cool is the game is dice. Every character has 3 dice. That's your 3 actions. You roll them. And then there's 4 or 5 standard actions in the game. And then as you play cards, you open up actions that other people can use in your card to collect money or collect advertising or whatever. And so the whole game is you're trying to, on the main play board, you're trying to keep the animal alive. You're trying to make sure that there's mating pairs, and each round you can roll for mating. But then at the end of every round, there's like in the panda one, it was like deforestation, right? It's the loss of the bamboo forests. Like in the otter one, it's like, the pollution in the ocean. So you're trying to, there's going to be more pollution or more deforestation. You're trying to, so that's like the disease spreading, and you're trying to, clear that. So you're trying to clear the disease, trying to clear the deforestation, reforest the area, while then also trying to mate and hopefully the deforestation or the oil or whatever doesn't pollute and kill the animals. While you're trying to do that and basically keep the board at bay, you're also trying to flip over countries, and it's random. There's maybe 25 different countries you can have out there. And the point of the game is, while you're keeping the animal alive, you have to convince, you're going to play with 6 of them. And you can see here, each country has its own kind of rules on how you sway them to join the cause of saving this animal. And, in the 2-player game, you in the 8th or 9th round, if you have at least 4 of the 6 saying, yeah, we're going to help you, then you successfully, save the animal. If you get through all those rounds and you haven't gotten that, or all the animals, you're down to 1 animal, so you don't have a mating pair, or too much pollution or destruction happens on the board, you lose. So there's more ways to lose than to win. The win, you have to get this influence with countries. And so what I like about it is there are, like I said, there are different, there's variations here. You have different countries, you can play different characters, and you have the different types of animals that you can do. So you have the wildlife TV host and the environmental lawyer, the philanthropist, the zoologist, and they all have these kind of custom decks. And that's kind of cool, as you see the board here. That's like, the forest board, and then the other side of it has water. So you can kind of, depending on what creature you're doing, you play the different sides. It's a really good game. It's tough. It can be really tough because, it's like kind of with Pandemic. If you get behind on things, it's hard to catch up type of thing. So you got to stay ahead of it. But last night we did the giant panda, and we successfully saved the giant panda. We got it was the United States, Brazil, China, and Peru joined in helping to save the giant panda. I like the replayability of it. Granted, you do have to buy the expansion to get the replayability. In the base box, you only have 2 animals, but that first expansion has like 6 more animals that you can do. And then there's been the giant panda expansion, and then a monarch butterfly expansion. So you've got, I think I've got like 10 different animals. So there's some variability there. There's variability with the countries. I like it because so they've done. This is it Grand Gamers Guild, maybe, I think, I believe. They've done a couple of things where they've done promos, and the promos went to help things. So they did a Red Wolf expansion where you and money went to go, like percentage of the money went to go help the endangered red wolves. They actually did a promo Ukraine card for the countries last year, and like they donated all the money, the proceeds from that, to humanitarian relief in Ukraine. And so they also, when the game first came out, they had like, you can, if you donated money to the I forget the name of some wildlife fund, you got a free promo pack of cards, and it was like in conjunction with another big YouTube channel. So it's kind of cool. They've kind of done this thing as like put the money where the mouth is. They've done some stuff to help different people, like with donations.
It's a passion for them.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. So it's a good game. I enjoyed it a lot.
Tell me more about the actual actions that you're taking. Like, we're mostly all familiar with Pandemic. We know we're moving from city to city.
Yep.
We're set collecting cards in order to get color matches so that we can cure a certain color disease and then remove those cubes off the board.
Yep.
What kind of actions are you taking in Endangered? What kind of decision points are interesting?
So there's you have 3 dice. You roll your 3 dice on your turn, and then you're going to place the dice. And you can kind of see, like, so this card right here is just you play it once. So if you play it, there's an action space where if I play it on this action space, I can play a card, gain $4 million. Well, I can use that $4 million to buy influence with governments, or I can use that $4 million to hire a company to clear deforestation tiles, right? Then you have cards you can put out that are always out there, where anytime I play this card, anytime another player rolls, I can help them manipulate their die, or let them re-roll their die, or change their die values.
So you're making a tableau.
Right. You're making a tableau. And then you have cards. You can kind of see here, these 2 cards here have little spaces for dice. So that's like the game board itself has 4 or 5 permanent action spaces where you can play your dice to. And then as you're playing the game, I can play out additional cards, which gives additional action places to go. And the kind of,
so it's like a dice placement game, like
dice
a Euphoria.
Placement game, yeah. And so like if I on my turn play the philanthropist there, I can if I put a 1 die there, the philanthropist pays $1 million, and then I draw a card, and I can put influence on an ambassador. If you want to go there, you have to play a higher die than me. Right, it has to be at least 1 higher. So you 2 or 3. In a 2-player game, you got to go 2 higher. So it has to go 1, 3, 5, whatever. But if I put a 6 there, then really no one can go there until my next turn, where I pull that die off. So there's some manipulation on, if you're blocking a space with a higher die value, no one else can go there. You can kind of talk about who goes first in what order to get the dice, played right. So you're kind of manipulating the dice to play on the action cards. Use those action cards to do things like gain influence with one of the countries, clear the animals.
Certain levels of influence, that country becoes an
moving
ally.
the animals, and then when you're rolling on the at the end of your turn, you're rolling for kind of like you can kind of see here the board has got the dice on the side. You're rolling for destruction tiles, right? And hey, like I have a bunch of pandas in the 6 column, but we're going to roll 6 next for destruction tiles, or the destruction tiles are getting really close to that. So let me use an action to move the pandas away, move them around, relocate them, type of thing. Or I need to create another breeding pair. So let me move one into a space that already has one. So now there's 2 there. And the more sets of 2 you can make, that's more breeding pairs. When you roll your D6, you have to roll less than the number of breeding pairs in play. So if you only have 1 breeding pair, you got to roll a 1 to get a baby, right? You have 5 or 6 mating pairs, then you're going to get it at the end of the time. So it's
okay. So that the pressure cooker piece is the board itself, the devastation of their habitat. You're trying to relocate them or protect the habitat. Yep. Meanwhile, you're working on the main goals, which is getting those nations to
influence. Yeah. So that's the balance. You have to balance maintaining the population of the animal, clearing out their habitat, playing out cards. And then the other thing too is each animal deck has an impact deck, right? And at the end of the turn, you're going to flip over one of those cards, and it's kind of going to be like the pandemic cards when you flip it over to pandemic hits, and it's going to be like the negative things that are happening. So like and some of them are a one-time thing, like, hey, you got to pay a couple $1 million or you lose a breeding pair, or you got to discard a card or you lose a breeding pair. Like last night, for example, we got one and it was a persistent effect. So when we flipped it over, it was out there until we found a way to get rid of it. And it was at the end of every round, a poacher kills a panda unless we discard a card. so it makes you burn through your cards, right? And then there's some cards that may help remove a persistent effect. But some of the persistent effects can be helpful. Like there's one, you flip it over and it's like, hey, in 2017, the Chinese government decided, let's not deforest. Let's actually give a whole bunch of land back to the pandas, and they reforested. And you could pay a couple $1 million to help with that. Those kind of things. So some of the impacts are not as bad, but generally the impacts are usually bad. It's kind of usually that pandemic card that flips over and kind of messes you up.
Is there a way that it escalates the pressure? So I know, like in Pandemic, the whole series of games, and in many other cooperative games, the negatives begin to escalate or come at a quicker rate.
Yes, that's what happens here. Is like those persistent effects from the impact deck. They'll start really stacking up if you can't get rid of them. You can get
because they stay out.
Yeah. So in the impact deck, some of them are right away or instantaneous, or they go, and some of them aren't. So like we had by the end of the game last night, we had 2 persistent effects. One was there was the poacher card. So every time you took a turn, if you didn't discard a card, a poacher killed a panda. That could be bad. And the other one we had was, pandas are notoriously they have very slow or very low, like they don't get busy very often, right? Like once a year, right? They don't go
reproductive rates are slow.
Reproductive. There we go. Thank you. Trying to think of the word.
Keeping it kid friendly.
Usually it's the number of mating pairs plus 1. You roll your d6, and if you're below, you're good. This took away that plus 1, so it was only mating pairs. So it made it harder to get mating pairs. And that's what's cool is every animal has a different impact deck. Every animal has a different setup, and every animal has slightly different win conditions, right? So you have to, like with the panda one, we had to have at least a 3x3 space still open for them to live in, right? That you couldn't have, impact, deforestation, and you had a whole area of the board that undeforested or full of forest. So yeah, it was cool. It's a good game. I mean, it's not like the greatest game ever. It's just a really good, solid, relatively tough cooperative game. And I like I'm always about education and kind of learning and thinking about what we do to our planet, right? And you want to, and how it works to how you got to convince countries to get on board with some of the stuff and get let's not just tear down the entire rainforest type of thing. There's some animals there that we probably want to keep around. So no, it's fun. I enjoyed it. It's definitely a solid one.
Sounds good.
It's a fun game, and it scales pretty well. Like the 2-player game, there's some pretty simple rules. You have to go 2 higher to place in the same spot. And then as you scale up, like you can see the sideboard here. This is the round marker. In a 2-player game, there's 9 rounds. In like a 3-player game, there's 7 rounds. In a 5, the rounds get shorter because more people are taking actions. So I think you can go all the way up to 5-player, and it's only like a 4-round game. And then you have 4 rounds to do everything. But it's so it scales well. That's the good thing too, is it scales well from 2 to 4 players, 2 to 5 players. So Endangered, I played that yesterday with my wife. And we're talking about, there's a campaign pack too, where it's like you play like 5 different creatures and you have to save 3 of the 5, so you can play kind of like a campaign aspect of it. So yeah, it's fun. When it hits the table, I get it to the table a couple times a year, so I enjoy it. So that's Endangered.
We visited family this weekend. Had my grandmother in town and my cousin from Colorado. She was in town. She owns a STEM camp / retail space out in over by Denver in Aurora.
Nice.
Yeah, very cool. They have board games there too. So we talked a little bit about board games. Her kids were there, so we busted out a game of Rhino Hero because they've got some younger kids too, and that was probably a bigger hit with the teenagers, the older teens, and the adults than it was for the kids. Just in the excitement of watching our older shaky hands try to maneuver the pieces. But we had to play it on the floor because of some of the smaller kids that were there. So it made it even harder for us older folks to have to get down and put these pieces down on the lower levels the way we did. But that was definitely a hit. But I think the game that I'll highlight the most is going to be our play of Ready, Set, Bet at 7 players. My son was a little bit disappointed because I wanted to play this time. I didn't want to just be the designated dice roller, and I didn't feel comfortable putting that on anyone, so we used the app. So the app is great. It runs the race for you. You just hit play. It's got a stylized voices and phrases to give you that feel that like Mike Lorenzo does so good at when he plays or when he hosts games of Ready Set Bet. He does that whole horse track New York voice. They've left the gate. That older style, but it has that built into the app.
Yeah. Now, and correct me if I'm wrong. In the app, you can adjust the speed of the race. So, like, if you have
that was my original mistake in the first race, I forgot to do that, and it felt like it took forever.
Oh, okay. It was slow. Okay.
It was so slow, and then we all got our chips out on the board,
and then you got to wait,
and then we had to wait. So on the good thing is in the middle of the game, in between races, you can change the settings. So we were able to get it down to a half second per roll. So the horses were moving at a good clip. That added that pressure to really get your chips out in the right places. I used our iron clay poker chips instead of the ones that come in the cardboard ones that come with the game. So the kids really enjoyed the feel of being able to play with the cool poker chips. You see everybody, manhandling their little stacks of poker chips as they were getting them.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think played 3 races without the VIP cards because it was very family centric. That's probably one of the best parts about Ready Set Bet is you can really scale that up. Do you want to play with, hello, Chris, if you want to play with light and family, just don't put out the VIP cards, right? Don't put out the prop bets. Just stick to what's on the board. You stick to the color bets and you stick to the horse bets. And it's just as fun as if you're playing with people who are able to multitask into those other areas and play the VIP cards, dealing out cards to folks, etc.
That is the cool thing, I think, with the app though, and where you can adjust the speed. So you can, if you're teaching people, you can play. Okay, we're gonna leave the prop bets and the other bets out, and we're gonna go real slow. First round, okay. Second round, we'll speed it up. Third round, we'll speed it up again. Now, you guys want to play again? Good. Okay, let's play again. Let's go back to first round. We're gonna go real slow again, but now we're gonna put the prop bets out, and then so you can kind of like introduce the game by slowing it down, speeding it up, and then adding in new elements to teach people. I
didn't even think about that. That accidental first slow game may have been a good thing,
right?
As folks figured out, I can only place one chip in one spot.
Right.
Oh, if you're already there, I can't go there. And most importantly, once it's laid, it's played.
Right.
So you can't move your bet.
Yep. And then you figure it out and go from there. I like that. It's a good game, but that is a game though that like you gotta have 5 or more. Like, I don't know how fun that game is at like 3 or 4 even. Maybe 4 with the app.
It becomes an activity at that point. 4 with the app. It's like a sports game.
Yeah. But you want to get like that game sweet spot is like the 5, 6, 7.
The party game level.
Yeah. Like
and that's that excitement of watching others. It hit off. I wasn't sure how it was hitting, right? As everyone's silently deciding where to put stuff. And then you see those frantic races as someone places a bet. Then you see the folks like in their proximity think, well, why didn't I go there? Yeah. And then they start grabbing up that same horse. So you see a little bit of action there, right? But not a lot of talking, right? But then once all the chips are laid, you become spectators. And then you start hearing the chants. All right, come on, 8. You can do it. Come on, 8. You can do it. Yeah. And then that hum starts to grow as you're like, no, I need 12. I'm going for 12. I put all in for blue. I need 12.
I would think too is as the rounds go on, that picks up as people are betting. Like, damn it, why did you go there? That was my spot, all right? It might take people who aren't like into it a round or two to really get into it and get yeah.
Excitement level was high when we got to the end, and the answer was, it's only 3 races? Oh, man. And then we scored it up, tallied it up, and headed out for the evening.
Okay.
It was a great day with family. So Ready, Set, Bet, and I'm looking forward to getting it back out now that I've got, if you watch at the beginning of the show, we talked about grip mats, and I got myself a Ready, Set, Bet neoprene mat to go with my coin capsuled betting tokens and my iron clay chips. I've effectively deluxified my own game without having to do the Kickstarter, Wayne.
There you go. Yeah. I'm waiting. I think next year's Dice Tower Flea Market will probably see a ton of the regular versions for sale because people will have gotten their deluxe copy, right? We'll see.
I bet. That's it for me for this week played. What about you?
Yeah, that's it. That's all I got this week. First week of school, so it's a little busy. Not too many games this week, so just the endangered. Probably get a game in.
Oh, and I got Fallout on the table. We're a couple rounds deep.
Okay.
So Fallout, the board game from Fantasy Flight Games, I told you I wanted to make sure I understood it so I could teach y'all.
Yep.
I will tell you right now, combat is terrible. I don't mean the mechanisms. I mean the monsters. They're always hitting you. Always hitting you, and it hurts.
Yeah. Now, are you doing the base game, or you already learned the base game plus the expansion?
Base game with the cooperative expansion.
Good, cool. Yeah.
But so far, the feelings that I'm getting out of it are fun. The excitement of flipping a tile in hopes of finding a place where you can take encounters has been fun. The monsters themselves are just
tough.
They're open, and especially being early.
Yeah.
Right. They're hitting for 6 damage.
Yeah.
I have nothing to stop that. I'm just taking out of my 14 health. I'm taking it.
Ooh, that's rough.
All right, folks. Well, that'll wrap us up for the evening. I know we've got get these kids out to school this week. Wish you all the best. For those in Tampa, at least, are all back in school.
Yeah.
All y'all across the country, wish you the best with getting your kids back into school. Next week, we hope to have Rob back. My hope is I can get this Ezra and Nehemiah
to the table.
I want to get, at this point, nothing else has got me more excited to get to the table than some Ezra and Nehemiah. Hopefully get you guys some first impressions.
Yeah. Yeah, I hopefully Rob will be back next week. We're holding off talking about the new Stonemaier game because Rob has actually played it already. So I think next week we maybe start with that little highlight of the Stonemaier games. Hear what Rob thinks. So
the monsters are terrible. as Chester Wilson puts in the comments. All right, y'all. Thanks for watching. I'm Carlos,
and I'm Wayne.
And that was all of us. It's just us two today.
Seems weird. I'm like, where's the other?
Doesn't it? All right, y'all. We much appreciate you. We catch you on the next one every Thursday. Beans and Dice podcast, a podcast about
how we game.
Thanks for watching the Beans and Dice podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe.